Well, good afternoon. We have saved the best for last, I promise you. It is my distinct pleasure to introduce the Honorable Wendy Sherman, former Deputy Secretary of State, for opening remarks. Would you join me in welcoming Ambassador Sherman to the stage?
Thank you very much.
Hello. It's been a long day, I'm sure, for lots of you. And really glad to have you here for this discussion. You are going to listen to a phenomenal panel, but I just want to make some opening remarks for you all to think about. So in my view, with everything that's going on, this is one of the most important sessions at this Expo. And the reason for that, as somebody who is just short of 75 years of age next month, the future is yours, not mine. Everything that's happening today, which is at an accelerated pace, this is not the Industrial Revolution that took 40 years. This is a technological revolution, an AI, a biotech, a space, you name it, a cyber, an information, disinformation revolution that is here now and accelerating at a rapid pace. When I was at the State Department, one of the things I was really honored to be able to do was to help the secretary set up the Bureau for Cyberspace and Digital Policy and the Office for Emerging Technologies. Because I said to all the diplomats, both the civil service and the foreign service, the world is going to change and the way we do things is going to change. And we all need to start to get trained to be ready to do those jobs. So I led the negotiating team for the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, the negotiation with Iran. The team was fantastic. Before we began, I had the experts, I was not one, but I had the experts write an entire agreement so we'd know what we would like to have. And then we spent 2 days in a conference room going over that line by line so that everybody on the negotiating team would understand. But what we couldn't do was have AI help write that agreement. We couldn't have AI help us figure out what might be the negotiating tactics from Iran. We could not have AI help us figure out the different pathways that the negotiation might take. Not that that would have given us an answer, but it would have helped us to think through the best pathway to get to the conclusion that we wanted. So diplomats, everybody in government, in non-governmental organizations, in the commercial sector, have to understand this new world, this new revolution, or opt out of the future, because the future is right now and belongs to all of you. So, technology for somebody my age does not come naturally. I call my 10-year-old or 8-year-old grandson when I have problems, because for them, Minecraft is like an everyday event. For any of you who have children, you know that. So their ability to think in these ways is very innate and intuitive. For all of you, many of you have these talents or gaining these talents, and it is absolutely critical that you use every opportunity, including this fantastic Expo, to gain those skills. You can do it online. You don't have to go to a college or a university. There are plenty of ways to learn these talents. Now, using these new technologies is hard. When one of our public diplomacy diplomats used ChatGPT to write a press release in Papua New Guinea, I congratulated him. I thought it was fantastic. And for the Deputy Secretary of State to tell somebody down in a small embassy that you were proud of what they did with technology is like fantastic. However, I then had the lawyers say, not so fast. I had the ethics people say, not so fast. I had the public diplomacy people say, not so fast. Because, of course, everybody wanted to slow down and make sure that everything was done fine and buttoned up. This led to Seth Center, who leads our Office of Emerging Tech, to lead a webinar, the largest webinar the State Department has ever held, because everybody wants to understand how to use the tool, what the limits of the tool are, but to have the debate and the dialogue that's necessary so you know what has to be protected and what has to be enabled. And now people are using ChatGPT in ways that the lawyers can calm down and not be so worried about anymore. Information, disinformation in our elections that are coming up here. More elections are happening around the world this year than at any other time. I think there's 60 elections happening this year. And disinformation, unfortunately, in the United States, China's the number one perpetrator, Russia, then Iran, then North Korea in terms of cyber attacks, in terms of disinformation. And so having those capabilities that are important, that you all have, we all need, and we all want. So you're going to hear from people who are trying to help people like you get into good jobs in the private sector, in NGOs, but I also want you to consider coming into government. I've worked in every sector. I've built a global consulting business. I've worked in NGOs. I've worked in state government, local government, and the federal government. Nowhere have the demands on me and everything I bring to the table are more demanded than when I've been in the federal government. Every morning I had to get up and I had to bring it. It was phenomenal, exciting, exhausting, which is why I finally retired, but fantastic. Able and privileged to do things no one ever has a right to do. So a couple other points that I'm going to stop so you can hear this panel. Number one, I started out as an MSW, a Master's in Social Work in Community Organizing and Clinical Skills. I have used that skill set in everything I've done. In politics, because I did politics for a number of years, and then found my way into national security and foreign policy, and came to work for 5 secretaries of state and 3 presidents. But if you had asked me when I was the 30-year-old director of child welfare for the state of Maryland, if I'd end up being the deputy secretary of state or negotiated with North Korea or negotiated with Iran, I would have laughed at you. So know that what you do first is not necessarily what you will do last. So just get started, because you never know where it will lead you. So a few tips as you think about what you're going to do and what you're doing. Make sure when you get up in the morning, you look forward to going to work. Work is hard. You have to like the people you work with. You have to like the place you work. Go into the office at least a few days a week. You cannot build community. You cannot build norms. You cannot build a team on Zoom. You just can't. So please, I know a lot of technology happens away from people, but please come together. That's how you build ideas and you really create revolutions. Don't expect to get your dream job the first instance. If you do, consider yourself lucky. Luck does play a part in life, but don't expect it. Get into the system, network, learn of new opportunities once you've proved yourself. Get a core set of skills and then use them in whatever opportunities are in front of you. Take risks. The worst thing that can happen is that you'll make a mistake. At least 2 times in my career, I have gone places, and as soon as I've gotten there, I've realized, oh my God, why did I agree to do this? It took me a year in each instance to extricate myself because I didn't want to burn bridges. So I did a good job. I left on as good a terms as I could and went on with my life. There will be disappointments, and you'll have to pick yourself up and find purpose. At one point, I thought, because Secretary Kerry told me that I was going to be his Deputy Secretary of State, but the White House had a different idea. And the current Secretary of State, Tony Blinken, became the deputy. It was a huge disappointment, but I would not have been able to finish the Iran negotiation if I had not stayed as the undersecretary. So find purpose in what you do. Learn all the basics you possibly can. And as I said, I hope you go into the public sector. It's a privilege. It's an honor. You have extraordinary experiences you can't have anywhere else. Finally, I wish you all everything that you want in life. You can get to do everything, even if you can't get to do it all at once. Life is a long journey. Enjoy it. Have a great time. I wish you all the very best. Your competence, your capability is going to create a safe, exciting world for my grandsons, and I thank you for that. Thanks very much.
Well, now I get to follow that. So we've got a very good panel coming up for you guys because I want to get to right to the chase. So we have today, please join and welcome to the stage, Lauren Bean, founder and CEO of Girl Security, Caitlin Gandhi, director and co-founder of the U.S. Digital Corps, Dr. Greg Bernard, talent portfolio director of the National Security Innovation Network, and Katy Hogan, director for federal workforce programs and the Partnership for Public Service. You're welcome to the stage. So SCSP considers talent to be a key issue. We have it in our work. We have it on the Expo floor. We are right dead center. The talent marketplace has been active all day. And we've had some of these members up here talking in our marketplace to people about connecting jobs, or people to jobs in government. And so I want to make sure I get right to the chase. And one of the networks we had, one of the organizations we had was the National Security Innovation Network with David Schiff. And now we have on stage Dr. Greg Bernard. And I'd love to hear from you, Greg, the different opportunities that Ensign has available to students.
Yeah, thank you. So Ensign has a talent portfolio within it with a number of programs. We do fellowships both during the summer and during the school year. We have academic programs where we'll place DoD problems in capstone courses. We have 2 curriculum-based courses called Azimuth and Hacking for Defense, which some of you may be familiar with. We also have a tech transfer program where we scour DoD laboratories and university laboratories for latent technology, so stuff that someone invented, it is now sitting on the shelf. And then we look for budding entrepreneurs to pair with that technology to see if they can develop a dual-use company around it. So that's kind of the high-level category of programs that we have.
That's incredible. And one thing we talked about beforehand, just to make sure everyone knows, you are DoD.
Yes, we are a DoD organization. We are within the Defense Innovation Unit.
So one of the ways that I think the private sector and nonprofits are really engaging people, in particular, and encouraging people into national security positions. We have Lauren Bean with us. She's the founder of Girl Security, and I think I'd love to hear from you different things, including the Alliance network that you have, and I'd love to hear how students can connect with that network.
Yeah, absolutely. So Girl Security is the only national security workforce training program for girls and young women. But what is quite unique about it is that it leads into a deep bench of the intelligence community and provides what we call enduring skill set. So I see a lot of younger people in the audience. And what we hear from the workforce is really the ability to be agile, the ability to project manage, and the ability to communicate. Those are 3 skill sets that the future workforce is looking for if you're job seeking. And so if you're a young woman or gender minority youth, you can come into Girl Security's program. If not, we have an initiative called the All Secure Alliance, recognizing that the private sector is the primary driver of our economy. The Alliance is working to better align intergenerational perspectives to some of the biggest national security challenges at the intersection of the private and public sector. And I'll just give you an example. The private sector often plans for sort of major points of failure where, of course, we know with this sort of diffusive landscape, As a result of AI, we're going to need more planning that deals with cumulative impacts. And so young people in our program get to actually partner with industry like Zoom and Levi Strauss and Company, as well as government agencies, and sort of design the future security workforce. And if you're interested in that, you can find me on LinkedIn and I can help give you more information.
You know, I should probably start off with, if you got a booth, we should connect to, because Ensign's right behind the town marketplace. So maybe we lead off that when I call on you. So one of my favorite programs, and some of my colleagues have been with the Partnership for Public Service. And Katy, I'd love to hear from you what PPS is doing to really engage students and draw them into the federal workforce.
Yeah, happy to. Thank you all for being here. It's wonderful to see you this afternoon. So my name's Katy. I work for a nonprofit. We're nonpartisan, called the Partnership for Public Service. Our mission is that a stronger government means a stronger democracy. And there's a number of ways that we do that. But where I sit in the organization is getting bright young people like yourselves into the federal government. So I'm really excited that you're all here. I will just note we're not the federal government, of course. We're a nonprofit, but I joke that we're the best friend of the federal government. We try really darn hard to send them the best talent because they need it. Just 7% of the federal workforce is under the age of 30. And I believe it's something like 1 in 3 federal employees are eligible to retire. So we are approaching a cliff. We need to fill space in government with the next generation of public servants. So there's a number of ways that we do that. I have flyers, stickers, pens. Come see me after. I'd love to see you all and hand those out. Lightens my bag on my walk home too. So 2 birds, 1 stone. I would love for you all, if you have a cell phone and you feel like seeing some of the stuff we do to get you into government, gogovernment.org. Gogovernment.org. That is our primary resource to help you all get into government. There is information on background checks. Background checks and security clearances can be different from other sectors. We have a resource on USA Jobs and how to navigate that. It can feel a little tricky. My favorite resource, though, if you look on the top left, the 3 little bars, click down, Federal Internship Finder. Federal Internship Finder. This is our newest resource. I worked in higher education for a decade. This is the resource that was of my dreams. And I know that it sounds really cheesy. Has almost 1,000 opportunities in government for internships, fellowships, early career rounded up into one resource. There are filters you can see. You can search by career field. If you search data science, information technology, and engineering, and filter for paid internships only, 321 come up. At your fingertips, you can explore opportunities across government at DoD, even at the National Park Service, National Science Foundation. So I invite you to take some time with the Federal Internship Finder. Last thing I'll say, we're the best friend of the federal government. We actually place students in federal government for paid internships. They can be done remotely. Our fall program is open till May 24th, and I have flyers. Would love to talk more about that with you.
So please get some pens from Katy. So it's not as though the federal government has been stagnant here. The Biden administration recently released an AIEO, and there are a number of deliverables that include AI talent. And we are very fortunate Caitlin Gandhi is on stage with us from the Digital Corps. So I'd love to hear about what you guys are doing and how that AIEO has really assisted you guys in what you do.
Yeah, that's great. Hi, everyone. Caitlin Gandhi, U.S. Digital Corps. So in my day job, I am the director of the U.S. Digital Corps, which hires early career technologists into the federal government. We do hire across a number of different technical tracks, including AI. As part of that work, as Ryan mentioned, I'm sitting on the White House AI Tech and Talent Task Force. And so as part of the recent EO that came out, the Digital Corps alongside PIF, the Presidential Innovation Fellows Program, which is another way to enter federal government for more senior, mid-career, and senior technologists, we were charged with contributing to the AI talent surge. And so as part of that work, we recently wrote a report to the president sharing the progress that we're making. There is a promise made by the federal government to bring in 100 AI and AI-enabling hires by summer. And PIF and Digital Corps combined are on track to bring in 86 of those hires. And so we're really proud of the work that we're doing so far. A lot of that work is pure AI work. There is a space for that in government. A lot of it is also preparing the stage for future AI work. Some of the things I'm really excited that our fellows are going to be doing once they start in the summer. A set of them are working with the VA. They're doing healthcare-related AI work. So they're working to use a battery of tests and help to diagnose veterans that are most at risk of COVID, identifying them early, connecting them with resources so they can help prevent or diffuse the situation once it becomes a real diagnosis. So there's a lot of great work happening, and we're really at the front edge of discovering new use cases across federal government for AI and AI-related work. And I'm really glad that as part of the task force, we're focusing on not just getting people in the door, but also helping them sustain in that government career. Because I think we're really focused, as Katie said, there aren't a lot of early career technologists in government. Right now, I think it's 3% in the IT field. I know it's 7% overall. We do need to help get more folks in and find new ways and show those that are interested in working for government how they can make that change. But we also need to look at ourselves and make sure we're creating conditions for folks to be successful in these fields.
You took my follow-up, and I think particularly with retaining talent. So it's not just rainbows and ponies. It is, and I'd love to open to the floor here. What are some of the challenges that you guys are facing getting talent into government? And actually, when you talk to students, what are some of the big issues that they bring up? And I'll just open that to the floor.
I've shared this when I was speaking, but one of the top questions we get from high school girls is when they're considering their career paths, how did you plan to have a family? It's a really telling question when someone at 16 or 17 is considering that pathway. And so I think we need to think more holistically about sort of the arc of one's career and not just think in phases of early to mid to senior, but think again, how do we develop more holistic policies where the private sector can be quite agile and lead in this capacity and sort of make a clarion call so that we're not just thinking about getting people in the door, but creating opportunities for mid-career people to be upskilled or even sort of alternative pathways. So thinking of hybrid options for working parents and caregivers. We really are not innovating enough in the workplace to consider retention. And again, I think that's where the private sector can play a leading role in that.
I think one of the things that the DoD in particular has a hard time with is just image management, right? People think that the DoD is one thing when the truth is there's a role for everybody within the department. There are national laboratories, there's tech development, implementation. There are incredible opportunities that are not all directly impacting or directly associated with fighting conflicts, right? National security is much broader than that. And so part of Ensign's programs are designed to give people that experience within the department in things that, or in ways that they never expected before, to really help change that image.
I'll just add to that by saying, so I go to dozens of college campuses across the country in my capacity at the partnership. And you all are here, so you know there's a place for you in federal government. But there's so many times that I'm talking to a student and they say, oh, well, I'm a data science major or I'm a communications major, so there wouldn't be a role for me in government. And so a lot of it is just that myth busting that there are so many opportunities and people in government that want and need your critical skill set. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges is just the stories of government. It's also okay if you don't start in government. Of course, I more than anyone want you all to go to federal government, but I really love the storytelling and the beautiful opening remarks about how, you can start as an MSW and end up working on diplomatic relations, right? I had a student that was an environmental public health major, and I believe she had a data science minor or something technical was her minor. She's now a data scientist at FEMA. That's not something that she ever would have dreamed up for herself, but found herself there through exposure to stories of what you can do in government. And then, of course, the challenges I've already mentioned, the timelines can often be quite a bit longer than the private sector. The pathway through USA Jobs or other hiring authorities in government can feel a little tricky to some, but there are absolutely ways and strategies to work through that. Background check, like I mentioned, and just the awareness are some of the challenges. But once again, gogovernment.org. We hopefully give you a wonderful starting point to work through those. And I also encourage you all, if you are a student, to go to your career advisors so they can be of support to you as well.
Well, I tell you what, how about, because I think we've really addressed that. So we've got students in the crowd, and let's just do a hypothetical. Student comes to you and they say, I've got different job offers. What is your pitch for them join the federal government? How do you encourage them to join the federal government?
I would ask them first, what is it about that offer that appeals to you? Like, what will drive you today? And now if you look ahead to yourself in a year, is that same value proposition true for you? So trying to pull out that idea of what is the impact that you will have, and is that impact aligned to your values and what you will feel good about in terms of your career progression? So that would be the first thing, because I think we have so many mission-driven opportunities, and to your point around making them more visible, they can look like a lot of different ways. They can look like a lot of different missions. There's something for everyone. And I think that the largest predictor that we're seeing for digital core, because part of our hiring process, we actually then match you with a project that is based on your interests. So if you make it to the final round, we survey you, we ask you what you're interested in. We try to find the right job configuration. Is it remote? Is it based in some of our healthcare related agencies? Is it something that is going to keep you there long term? And I think that's something that at the beginning you can be thinking just about that moment. And so how do you think about that long term in the moment that you're making that decision?
Oh, I steal a line from my brother who served in Iraq, which is democracy is not bestowed from one generation to the next. So be part of the designing the democracy that you think reflects your identity and your experiences. And on top of that, working in government also helps create a lot of opportunities for you within the private sector.
Okay. I'd also add that I think, at least from my personal perspective, that the government is not the only place we want you to go, right? This nation needs people engaged in national service. And so whatever that is, whether that's starting your own company, whether that's working for one of the contractors supporting the national security enterprise, those are all wins for the nation. And so I encourage you, and to your point, right, find where you're going to go, find where you're going to thrive. It doesn't have to be the government. Like we want you involved. We want you problem solving and helping to move this country forward.
I accidentally just went into a great talking point, and that is SCSB convenes government, industry, and academia for national competitiveness, and bringing it in by saying like government is not just exclusively government. It is you are working toward our competitiveness as a nation. So with the final 5 minutes, we will we will open the discussion to the floor. So please, we have mics running around. So if you have a question, please raise your hand and call on you because we'd love to answer some questions. We have all this talent on stage. Ask away.
The military health system and the Defense Health Agency is seeing the writing on the wall and foreseeing that they're going to need to figure out how to get talent on board for the digital transformation that they're planning to have in the coming years. They're having a summit on July 10th and are looking for speakers from industry, academia, and wherever that can help them figure out how to figure it out. So I'm going to try and catch all of you after this to see if you would be interested in being a speaker at that summit. Thanks.
You're welcome.
And I just throw it. Is it on? No.
Hello, thank you so much for being here. My question is about the difference between public and private sector as in transitioning from one to another. I've heard a lot of mixed reviews about how it can be difficult to go from public back into private or vice versa. So I wanted to sort of get your input on that. Thank you so much.
I'll start with this one. I think for Digital Core, we've recognized that any sort of life transition, any sort of career transition can be hard. Federal government is a pretty unique place. I'm new to government. I started about 3 years ago for this program. And part of what we've designed into our curriculum, the reason why we wanted to do a fellowship, because we really started when Chris and I were founding this program with the same challenge that Katy was outlining. We chose to have a fellowship program because we wanted to address that exact issue. We wanted to bring people in as a cohort. We wanted them to go through the experience together. We wanted to directly address some of the professional challenges that you'd face, not just the technical application challenges that you'd face in your role. So I think it's real. I think it's real going back and forth. But there are lots of supports available to you as you're making that transition. And I think the community that you build will help you through that either way. And I personally have found that my transition to government has been a lot more familiar to me than I would have expected coming from the nonprofit world. So I think the culture was more aligned where I landed than I expected. I think some of the ways that people work and they operate in their day-to-day felt more things that I was used to, and it wasn't as different as I expected. So taking the plunge wasn't that hard.
My experience has been that it's easier to go from government to private sector, less so to come back. But I will say that this is something that we've recognized as a gap that needs to be addressed. The DoD Chief Talent Officer, sorry, I don't know the official title, Britton Palmer has talked about trying to create sort of this jungle gym of talent where you can swing in and swing out. You can go to the private sector, you can come back to the government, and how do we facilitate making that easier? So that is something that we're working towards, but hopefully that answers your question.
We need to talk about that. I was just saying, my short quip is that you'll need 2 different dictionaries for the different acronyms and verbiage that you might hear in different sectors. And I do think that's right. There's a couple of bridge programs out there that I think are great models for almost replicating a civic corps style program, right? Where you give young people especially a chance to serve across the private and public national security sectors. But I think we still have some work to do on that.
We have time for one more question.
Let's see hand in the back. Yes.
Hi, thank you. My question is, using USA Jobs kind of feels like sending your resume into a bottomless pit. Like, it's weird. I was wondering, is there any way that you can be more successful in this Like, I just refreshed my email. Is there something else?
This would not be this would not be a panel about talent in the government if USA Jobs did not come. So thank you for asking me USA Jobs. I'll let them answer the hard ones.
I don't have a good answer. My first reaction was a very deep sigh. It's real. Navigating USA Jobs is very difficult. Filters help, but I think it's also helpful to talk to a lot of people that are in the government. So I'm happy to chat with you after. Other people that are hiring. There are ways that people will post to indicate what they're looking for. There are things like if you're looking for a data science role, you probably want to filter for things that start with 1560, which is the data science job code in the federal government. You want to probably use some other filters like looking for different hiring authorities, like a direct hire authority, which could help you get hired faster. So there are ways to filter, but it is, to your point, there's a lexicon that is not known to people outside government. And so that translation needs to happen by someone. And luckily, there are a lot of people willing to help. And then there are programs like Katy's website and others that will help almost decode what those postings are and then direct you to the posting. So once you get there, you know what you're applying for. Even if you just uncover that on your own, it would be a little bit more confusing, I suppose.
And to quickly build on that, so gogovernment.org, if you go to the career guides and let's say you're interested in data science, so Caitlin mentioned job series code. So that's how they classify different job families. It'll give you a quick list of data science job series codes. So it starts to help you translate the language of USA Jobs. You are not alone. I had many students who did successfully go through USA Jobs and get a paid internship opportunity. Some of them are still in government, so it can be done. It does take some time because it's a completely different system. So I would really encourage you, of course, gogovernment.org, and I have some stickers and pens that you're all going to take. But the career guide's a really great place to start, and you can save your searches. That's another strategy. So you can save the level that you're looking at, location, and then a job series code, label it. And then it sounds like you know this, but you can also get it to your inbox. When you go to apply, I think having that mentor who works in government, if possible, is wonderful to help you craft the resume. The last thing I'll say, though, there are many points I could make, and I'm happy to stay after and talk one-on-one with anyone, is use the resume builder in USA Jobs. And I know there are different opinions on that, and you can certainly attach an industry one-pager in addition, but the resume builder feeds it to you and then constructs a PDF that's in alignment with, in general, what agencies may look for. So I think it's really smart to invest some time and energy into that federal resume. And then you can actually save, I believe it's up to 5 federal resumes in your USA Jobs profile. So you can tailor it. You can have one that's your foundational one, duplicate it, and then tailor it to the position to which you're applying. So I know those were a couple of quick technical strategies. I'm happy to keep talking, but I really encourage you to go to the career guides. It's a great place to start.
Yeah, and I was just going to add, our mentoring program just opened up. So we get this question a lot, and mentors will help coach you through the process, work on your resume with you, help find people within their network who can talk to you about the specific agency and whatever the skill set is. So if your brain works like mine, where like numbers hurt sometimes and labels hurt sometimes, talking to someone can just help you be more efficient in what you're doing as well.
I would also just add that some of the other programs that are out there, so the fellowships, the academic programs, Ensign designs our programs so that you actually work with a DoD organization, a mission partner. And so by having that connection, what we find is a lot of people want to continue that work supporting that organization. And a lot of those organizations want that work to continue. And so getting that actual like face-to-face cooperative opportunity, it's worth a lot. So worth looking into.
Well, thank you for the rich discussion. I'm going to shamelessly offer their time to talk to you after this panel because it's such an important topic. Would you help me in thanking them as we finish up this panel? And that ends day one.